So hello again. Welcome to the second part of our webinar today. I would like to introduce you to Kate Rounding, who is our TiME Development Director, a musician, sound engineer, and all sorts of other things. Particularly, she's been working for the last few years doing wonderful work in the community. Kate, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Hi, thank you, David. That's lovely, and it's great to be here and great to hear everybody sharing such interesting information about developing careers in the industry. We have got a fantastic session coming up, and I'm going to introduce you to our panel in just a few minutes. We're going to be discussing the benefits of community music projects and partnership working, and in particular how this can support students, young musicians, producers, and emerging music leaders into careers across the industry. Just a little bit of info about myself. I'm Kate Rounding, and like many people, have worked in various roles in music and education. It's that word again, portfolio career, as both a producer, engineer, musician and educator. I'm supporting technology and music education as a development director, and I have a keen interest in how we can collaborate to support young people's progression and widen inclusion. With one of my other hats on, I'm the project manager for pedestrian and arts and education charity based in Leicester, and we'll be hearing more about the work that's happening in Leicester to engage young people. I think many of us will have heard and probably used a range of terms to describe informal and non-formal music education. Participatory, inclusive, and community music are all terms that are often implied to engagement outside of school and formal education settings. The term community music does seem to fall in and out of fashion, and I think however this work is described, it often doesn't do justice to the fantastic work that is done by music leaders and the positive impact it has for young people they work with. But today I'm among friends as we have colleagues and young people who I've worked with on many music projects, and we're going to start this session with a short film looking at how a network of organisations in Leicester have supported Tian Mhende, who you'll meet soon, to develop his career as a music leader and performer. So David, if you could play the film, it's about 6 minutes and I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm Tian. We're here at Stackhouse recording a short film about Leicester's community music scene and how it helps people. I'm gonna be the man, yeah, bro, yeah, I've been there. Gotta feed the family, I'm talking like King's Egg. My name's Tian Mhende. I am an artist from Leicester and I rap on pretty much any beat that sounds good. It wasn't all that bad in school. I wasn't a great student. I went to college and I got kicked out of college. I didn't agree with school because I felt like it didn't help me personally, or any student that isn't as academic as the others. We was at the basketball courts and all the kids, there was battle rapping. They was like, just try something, just diss one of them, just rhyme and diss them. So I had to go, and it must have worked because now my friends told me that we're gonna go to a studio, and I was really excited. And obviously never been to a studio before, except for like recording like film studios, never a music studio like this one. And we got there and we met Wavy, and Wavy is like the GOAT music mentor in Leicester, and there ain't really nobody that's going to tell you any different.
My name's Naji, also known as Wavy. I had that nickname way before the slang for many years. And I'm a community music mentor. Tian came up with a few friends, just wanted to just spit bars, very wild, very loud. Didn't know how things went and how things worked, so we got him in the studio, showed him how to use Logic Pro, the software, music software. And yeah, he picked it up real quick and started banging out loads of tunes. But he picked up a lot, learnt a lot, and now he's on the journey to becoming a music mentor. So it's a beautiful thing, man. It's circular, you know.
From that point onwards, every time I went to Soft Touch, that was my studio. Like it just became a real serious thing.
What can I do except tear the booth while I'm making a move to the top? Better make room, 'cause I bet you I'll shoot, kill shot if you're still.
Through being a part of music projects, I've been able to go to record songs at places like Red Bull Studios. I've been able to record songs at HQ. I've been able to perform at places like The Cookie, Too Funky, The Shed. We went to London to BBC Introducing when they had a show. How to put together a proper song. I remember there was a time, actually, like in the first time I did grime sessions, Shay and Curly must have sat down for like an hour and a half to explain to me how to count a bar. But there's quite a lot you learn in music. I also learned how to manage my admin, obviously. So how to send off an invoice, who need to invoice to, how I need to set it all up, and how to perform.
My name's Shay and I'm a community music mentor. I think it's amazing to see where Tian is now, from being a participant to now being on the journey to being a mentor and a trainee, and the fact that he's able to see that there's a lot more out there in terms of the music industry and how music education plays a big part in the music industry too.
A music mentor's job is very important in those early initial stages to give young people a realistic view of how the industry works, how their art form can be developed and how they can do that.
Be the man, yeah, bro, yeah, I've been there, gotta feed the.
Obviously, I've had quite a few mentors, and no matter how much we get along now or whatever, they all had an input in me becoming the way that I am. And I reckon it's more of a personality thing and a personality job, which is kind of why I went into it, because I feel like the way that Shay and Naji are, I am quite similar in the fact that I know enough about what I'm doing, and I know not to talk to a student like a student and talk to them like they're doing something they want to do.
They're people that are in the community, that have got experience in music, and then they can help guide and steer younger musicians along their journey, along their path.
Teaching via experience, not looking at a strict syllabus as to do this, do that, more about teaching holistically from experience and knowing young people in the community, I think is a huge part to play in the success of community music.
If you've just took part in a 2-3 month project and you feel like you've really enjoyed what you was doing and you want to go on that next step, but there's nothing after, once one finishes, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna find the next place to go to when you have more options.
I think we're a bit of a net who can capture and catch the young people that have maybe fallen off the mainstream route or have found a different path which suits them more.
Young people, when they have a passion for music and they need somewhere to be able to express it and work with people who can guide them to have the same passion as they do for music.
Just as important as teachers in mainstream education, community mentors have a very vital role to play with those young people that maybe miss out on that mainstream route.
I would like to say thank you to Connectivity and Technology in Music Education for putting on a great show. I've been Tian, and I'll see you guys next time.
I'm gonna be the man, yeah, bro, yeah, I've been there, gotta feed the fam, yeah, I'm talking like kings there, keep up with the track, yeah, you cannot lack interest, I can prove that with these maneuvers, I can prove it with maneuvers that have you all looking stupid when I do it, so fluent, you think I made on the computer's nothing to it, you're ruined when I hear you with my new music, I just do it to do it and make it all just look like losers. And that's facts, can't cap when I rap, I'ma run, John Scrap, what's it take to be the man who can't replace him, where's the yapping in the basement, now I'm back to
Brilliant. Thank you, Tian, Shay, Naji, and everyone involved in making that film. It's great, and it's great to hear more about Tian's journey. We have some panelists here that haven't got their cameras on. Yasin And hello, hi, brilliant, great, we're all here, lovely. So yeah, I'm going to just do a quick introduction to everybody. We've met Tian now, which is brilliant, and we'll come back to Tian in a minute. We have Naji, aka Wavy, here, Akshay Sharma, Mr. Shay, and Yasin El Ashrafi, who is now Sir Yas, having won the Queen's British Empire Medal, and Estar, a young performer, musician, artist from Leicester. Lovely to see you all. Tian, great to hear about your journey in the film. What else are you up to in the moment now that you are an emerging community music leader?
I don't know, but first, that video was sick. Yeah, but it got me really gassed. But currently, we're doing Perfect Score, and we have a conference for that coming up. I can't remember the date. Okay, what's the date of our conference, the Perfect Score conference?
March the 17th. Yeah.
The 17th. So that's soon. And aside from like the theatre inside, I'm also launching a podcast at the place where we shot that video, because they started to talk to me about it afterwards. So that also came full circle, as I've seen that in a lot of the chat. So yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. So that's a real good example of connections, as Ollie was saying earlier about connections, making those connections. So you made the film there, and that's led to something else. That's brilliant. And aren't you also working in some schools, or you were? How's that going?
Yes, with the Kane Foundation, which is a group of, it's like a collective that aims to help Black youth or youth in BME areas that don't feel like they get enough support at school. And we go into schools and give it to them. As you said, yeah, we was going into schools, but now it's all on our teams. But hopefully we're allowed to go back in a few, like 2 weeks, I think, because they go back in on the 8th, and we are 2 weeks after that. We're allowed back in as long as we get tested at the school. And so, yeah, hopefully that starts rolling again.
Great. So that music leadership work is really happening for you.
Yeah.
I can hear some terrible echo there. I don't know what it is. Thank you, Tian. Estar, hello.
Yo, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Great to have you here. So similar to Tian, you've been through a journey from connecting with community music projects, meeting mentors and music leaders and industry people, making friends and a group, through to what you're doing now. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, so I started like with Too Funky. I started in the grime sessions, and so I met T on that project as well, and I met Carly and Shay. They were like the music mentors for that, and from that was like the first project I was involved with, and from there I got into pedestrian, and just from there I started finding about more projects, gave me the confidence to also start performing like at open mic nights, to get onto events. Like I've been on Festival Too Funky, I've been on Cosmopolitan Festival, and I think it's just like the connections you meet. When people see like you really want music and like you're invested in it, they'll give you the opportunities to get on more things.
Great, that's lovely. And what's next for you? What's happening at the moment?
Well, do you know, because like people would say I'm like a performance fiend, and because of COVID I can't perform as much, so I've just been trying to like release more things. So I'm working with another artist, like we're a duo, you know, Sly. And like last year we finally set up a Spotify, so we released our first single. We released a freestyle visual this year. We just released another visual. I'm on a project with Soft Touch at the moment, and then my video with Pedestrian's going to get released on the final event on the 17th of March. So it's just right now it's working on kind of having a social presence while I can't perform.
Great. Well, it's good that you're keeping busy and things to look forward to. And I'm going to, Yasin, I'd like to have a chat with you for a minute, because Tian mentioned HQ in the film, and obviously you've been part of a lot of young people's journey in Leicester. Tell us a bit more about your work at HQ, and especially how you make that link between industry and education.
Yeah, well, I started out with community music as well. Like, I started off on a soft touch project when I was a kid. So I kind of always understood the importance of community music projects and stuff. And then when I was older and I decided to start my business, which is HQ, which is a recording studio, and we do community stuff as well with HQ Can. I kind of realized there weren't that much opportunities for, especially for adults, you know. So I kind of set up predominantly to work with over 18s and provide opportunities. And through working with so many people, I kind of just realized that there's so much talent. It needed to be, I suppose, unleashed on the world, you know, like how we're going to get their music out, you know. So it was kind of looking at, you know, things like Spotify and how can we release it? How can we get paid for performances? You know, how can people earn money from music? You know, so that was kind of what I was really focused on, and what I am focused on. You know, so it's good to hear everyone talking about portfolio careers and multiple income streams and stuff, because it's important. And the same for me. I've been a promoter. I've been a club owner. I've got a recording studio. I'm a mentor. I do consultancy, artist development, and it's, you know, we have to do whatever we can to, I suppose, earn money and keep things going. So it's kind of getting that across to the young people, you know, and kind of giving them the opportunity to perform and to get their stuff to an industry standard, you know. So we kind of really focus on, you know, the mix and the master and how to package stuff and, you know, how to connect and get that industry knowledge as well. So like I work alongside a lot of the community people, the community organisations in Leicester, but then I also work with the industry bodies like Association of Independent Music and Music Managers Forum, and, you know, kind of other promoters, and just to try and keep money coming into the city, you know, and providing these opportunities, performances, how they can earn money, how they can basically have a proper career. And I think, you know, the reality of it is there's not really many jobs, you know, and I think a lot of the students, even graduates, are coming out with maybe not enough practical experience, you know. So again, we're focusing on, let's give them the real world experience. Let's give them, this is how to engineer, this is how to produce, this is how to become self-employed, this is how to, you know, kind of all the stuff maybe that's not so, all the practical stuff behind it, you know, the importance of networking, you know, like how to do it all basically, you know. So, and I think the industry side is important because, you know, we want people to aspire for greatness, you know, and we know there's a lot of talent in the city. So, you know, it's kind of that they've got to believe it, but then they've got to know how to do it to that level. So, yeah, that's what I'm really focused on.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Yasin. And Naji, I know you've been working, as you said in the film, in music and in community music for many years. And in fact, I know some of the young people that we've worked with, you've seen them grow up, develop as artists right through to becoming signed, etc. So really seen that journey. You know, what sort of barriers do you think young people face to accessing formal music education? Why does this sort of community music, the project working, why does that work? What does it do?
I think the main thing that grassroots music, and I stress that the grassroots, that first level, how important it is for young people to experience that that whole kind of, you know, environment, you know. When you first get started and you don't know what to do, you know, it will be the community kind of places that you would go to try and get some information or advice or some kind of experience. Or, you know, for instance, if there's a community studio in your area, you know, they may be running situations where you can go and record for free, so you can get your first ever recording session done, you know, and then you can go back and learn, and then from that you'll get your opportunities to perform, and invariably there'll be your first shows, and on that circuit is where you do all of your learning and your development. It's where you kind of first get your first experiences of being in the music game. Especially, I can comment especially from the rap perspective, because rap has been a phenomenon now for many years. And you know, when the scene kind of died out, there probably wasn't that the kind of natural rap environment for a lot of these MCs to hone their skills, you know, in a real world environment. So, you know, when you get involved in these community events, you'll meet other MCs, and then you'll be able to cipher with them. You know what I mean? Spit your bars, sharpen your skills. Yeah, so I think that's the most important aspect of learning of community music, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Shay, Mr. Shay. So music technology is often at the heart of the work that you do with young people. And obviously we've worked together a lot, and in fact all of us work together a lot. But you know, using music technology is something that you do an awful lot. What do you think music technology brings to young people? What's the difference that makes?
Yeah, good question. And hi, everyone. I think music technology acts as a very powerful vehicle for that first access into music, especially for the young people or anybody who hasn't had the traditional music route. If you hadn't, maybe you come from certain economic or financial barriers that haven't allowed you to take up a wind instrument or a string instrument or join an orchestral group, then what better way than to have these accessible bits of technology that you can use on your laptop, on your phone, buy online, and have quite cheap ways to create music. So a lot of the time I'm using like loop stations. I use a certain type of loop station, but there's also things that you can do with apps on mobile phones and stuff which create the same thing. So my goal is to allow different routes in to create music which might be heavily inspired by hip-hop music, for example, which uses samples. So how can we use everyday things around the house? How can I turn a pot and a pan into a bit of percussion? How can we sample that? How can that be equally as valuable to create rhythm as maybe a drum kit? So I think it just provides a different way into the music industry for those bedroom producers, for those people that are inquisitive about how to explore music in a different fashion.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And I think it's interesting that we're all talking about, supporting young people, whether it's that first point of access and, learning how to do things at the first stage, right through to the other skills they need, connecting with the industry, even networking as a skill, supporting them with that. So sort of that whole journey there that can be looked after by a network of organisations, as we do in Leicester. So I was thinking about the film, and obviously we talked about what makes an effective community music mentor or an effective music mentor. How can people become that? Because actually it surprises me that a lot of young people and parents, educators, don't always know that that is an option as a career to become a music mentor. So what's the kind of steps they would need to take?
Is that
Mr.
to me?
Share,
Yes. Sorry. So sorry. Hi. I'm on gallery view, so it's all like kind of throwing me off. But yeah, thank you, Kate. I think Tian answered that question really well when he said it's not something that you can be taught. It's something that you first and foremost have the innate personality that you've got to be a music mentor. It's not an easy job. It's something that requires you going through the same kind of process that the young people may have gone through. So your way into music, how did you get into music, and how can young people relate? So for example, my music journey has been self-taught completely. So I learned off of just growing up in the community, doing raps on the street, just learning off my friends, and having that in as a common ground with the young people that also brought up in that way has been a very, very beneficial aspect to being a music mentor, because at the end of the day, you then understand their life, you understand that route, you understand what the environment they're growing up in is like. However, I feel like it's really important to have that approach, because as a school teacher, you can have different advantages, but maybe there's a barrier between that community, grassroots, knowing the community, and one of the biggest things is we are artists doing it still. So I would still do rap music, I would still do hip hop, I'm still making music as an artist, and learning every single day. So every day I'm able to share that knowledge with young people straight away. But yeah, personality and having that mindset to understand young people in a slightly different way.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. And Naji, what about you? What do you think is a good route into becoming a community or a music mentor? And do you think this is unique to Leicester, or is it happening around the country? Are there organisations supporting young people around the country?
Yeah, there are. I mean, you'll find a similar setup in most cities where, you know, there's a community of you know, grassroots organisations that are, you know, actively involved in creating young new music leaders. You know, I think it's a music leader's job to keep people enthused, you know, and to, you know, because it's going to be your first kind of entry into it. So I think it's important that you've got to realize that it's your job to keep these young people wanting to come back and do it again the next day, you know. So yeah.
Great. And I think actually, you know, from all of our experiences, it's about widening the access to types of music as well. So that, you know, you've got an offer for every young person, really, whatever type of music they're in. And there's specialist skills involved in that. And then, of course, the supporting them into a career role. And I know we've all said at one point or another that sometimes working with young people who have already overcome barriers to get to where they've got, they still need that extra support as they launch their careers. I wonder if anybody's got any ideas about what you think we could do better, actually. You know, Estar, what do you think we could do better?
I think it's hard because there's so many artists in, like, well, any city, but I think it's just support and exposure, because obviously these courses are really great, but there's not that many of them, you know, and I think that's the problem. And Leicester's quite small, there's not even many places to perform. Like, it is really hard for artists. I think just like opportunities, like more courses, but definitely more places to perform and opportunities to grow. I think that would definitely help.
So just need more projects, more opportunities, more performance spaces.
Yeah.
And I think more connections with nearby cities as well. You know, there's going to be, for instance, other similar kind of artists that you could collab with on other, you know, youth stages, youth scenes. Derby's up the road from Leicester, you know what I mean? Nottingham's up the road, Birmingham's up the road, you know, so there's, you know, opportunities there, you know, from especially now everything's online, you know what I mean? There's no reason or excuse for not connecting with people. You just got to make those connections and then travel to each other's cities. You know, there's always going to be, you know, grassroots performances at some stage. I know with COVID, it's kind of it's all kind of upside down right now, but I think if things get to any kind of level of normality again, I think those are going to be some of the most vibrant scenes, because there's going to be a lot like I was saying before to Estar, and she was saying, yeah, because it's me that I call it a performance fiend, and most young people are, you know, and especially with all of this thing stuff with COVID at the moment, you know, there's I think there's going to be a lot of young people wanting to perform in a live environment and have that real kind of experience, you know. And I think if you make connection with other similar artists, you know, on your level in different cities, there's going to be other organisations that you are involved with are going to have certain connections to. So, you know, inquire.
Well, I think that's a great idea, and it's funny you should say that, because I think, Yasin, that's kind of where you've been looking at next, isn't it? Is about widening those connections, connecting up Leicester to other cities and looking at those shared performance opportunities.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really important, because like everyone said, Leicester is it's quite small, you know, and we all know each other and we all work together, and a lot of the time we work with the same people. But you know, there's a lot of the time there's not enough funding for us to work with the people for the length of time that they need, you know, to give them that support over. You know, I'm working with some people who I've been working with on and off for like 8-9 years, you know what I mean? And I might have been funded to work with them over a 7-week period, you know, and it's hard sometimes to give them the time they need so that you can justify creating so many opportunities that they actually need. So again, by joining up with, we're looking at working with people in like Nottingham and Wolverhampton. So there's offshoots in Nottingham, there's Beats Bar in Wolverhampton, and looking at how can we can set up like some regional activities, you know, where we can take artists and they can do skill swaps. So we could take producers from Leicester, give them beats to the people in Nottingham so they can get their MCs on it, and vice versa, you know, use different radio stations, you know, so we're not exposing the people to the same demographic all the time, you know. Let's expose them to Nottingham and Wolverhampton and Birmingham. And, you know, again, if we're trying to compete with, like, not compete, but, you know, like London is so much bigger, you know, so like for me, it's how can we connect the dots between the Midlands and create better performance opportunities, you know. And really it's not that big a thing to maybe get, I don't know, 5 to 10 people, put them on a bus or a train and go over to Nottingham and see how their scene is, you know, and that's going to open them up and create a much bigger network. And, you know, again, partnerships only going to create bigger and better opportunities, you know. So it's like joining forces with I suppose with organizations with that kind of shared vision of, we want to do stuff good, but we want to do it, you know, we want to support people, we want to help, and we can understand where they're coming from, and we kind of know how to do it. And again, even for myself as an organization, to start partnering up with other organizations out of Leicester is only going to teach me. I'm going to learn from it. My team's going to get more opportunities, and that's going to, you know, like the bigger we get, the bigger opportunities we can pass on, you know. So I think, yeah, we want regional, then we want national, you know, and then international, you know, like going over to places. We want to be doing stuff in America and, you know, doing projects with people in South Africa or wherever, you know. So I think it's about, I suppose it's not always easy, but there's a way to connect the dots and, you know, create a much bigger and better network, which will only create more opportunities, because the people don't want to perform to the same 30 or 50 or 100 people every time, you know. And it's also a case of, if we've got 4 or 5 organizations and we're all putting on a few of our best people, you know, that's going to be all these networks coming together to watch these, so that we can create little tours, we can create, you know, different music collaborations to put out and release. And I think for me, that's the next step now. I kind of feel like we've got Leicester kind of between us on lock, you know, like we know everybody, we know all the venues, we know all the musicians, and it's like, well, what's the next bit? You know, what's the next thing? How can we grow this now, make it more impressive, you know, higher quality, and even down to putting them in with more musicians and, you know, kind of, you know, like they've got a chance to maybe perform with a band, but then, okay, let's get them in the studio with a saxophonist and a guitarist and, you know, kind of all these different things to just, yeah, see what we can come up with and just, yeah, connect the dots.
Yeah, so I think that's a great example of how partnership working, you know, working together within a smaller area, but then extending that and the benefits of partnership working. And obviously, hopefully that has the positive impact supporting young people into their careers. And actually, Tian, you know, Tian, you were really keen to develop as a music leader. You really, that was a focus for you. I think, Esther, you started with that and had a go, but it wasn't quite your focus. Yours was more about performance. But you have to have those opportunities to try and find out which it is you want to do and what you work best in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, lovely. Well, I'm hoping that we've got some questions for you all from our audience. If Richard...
Yes, okay. I think everyone wants now to move to Leicester.
I don't blame them.
We're on our way. We're on our way. I'll use your couch, don't worry. Yeah, there were some questions actually coming up. So the beyond 25, you know, is community music available for people over the age of 25? Is it just youth, young people, or is the age range wider than that? Shay, what do you think about that one?
That's an interesting one. I guess for people, it depends on where you're coming from, whether it's if you want to get involved and be a participant still, or whether you want to actually get involved in maybe leading as well. So there becomes that progression after, you know, once you hit 18 or whatever, then you can progress onto being a bit more developing either as an artist. There's definitely support there as an artist that we can help and contribute to, but then there's also that route of well, you've done all the sessions, you now know how the sessions run, why don't you come and teach with us? So then you've got that progression of a career route as well. So I think in those fashions, definitely there's support in community music after 25. But yeah, I do get the fact that some funding is, you know, a certain bracket, and maybe that can be a barrier at times, but that's why we try to package it in more of a career progression rather than just being a participant, I think.
Do you feel the same, Naji? The same sort of idea there on that? Do you see people over the age of 25? Would you let them into your studio?
Oh yeah, of course. I think, and that's another thing as well. That of course, you know, providing opportunities for young people is very important. I think that's probably, you know, where things should be focused. But you know, we age, we get on, and our love for music doesn't change, you know. So I still think that there should be opportunities that are beyond age restriction, just to get involved and create music in your community, you know.
That's great.
There's no reason where there should be an age attachment for involvement in community music. But like I say, I think it's important that community music is the main way that young people get a realistic experience and understanding of what it is to create music and be involved in the music business, because the chances are that the tutors themselves and the community leaders are actively involved in the music industry at various levels anyway, you know. So yeah,
I mean, and Yasin, so if I was 32, you let me in your studio and have a play. That's probably good. But then a question's come up on funding.
Specifically, to be honest, for over 18s, and I've had people, like, I've got a lottery project reaching communities, and there is no age limit on that. That's just over 18, and I've had people come to me who've like had a passion in music, and then they've had a lot of years out, they've had kids, you know, and then they've kind of come back and they want to get back involved with music. I've had people that have come and it's the first time ever exploring music at any age. I've had people all the way up to, I think 55 is the oldest participant I've had. So for me, like when I started my business, my music business, I was 29. So I kind of thought, well, if I didn't have my direction until that age, there must be a lot of people in a similar position. So like there's certain projects where the funding is specifically for 18 to 25-year-olds, but then I always try and find funding for just 18 plus, because I don't want to turn anybody away just because of their age. So, and a lot of the volunteers I have and kind of people who get involved are also, you know, they're in the 30s sometimes. So I think, yeah, for me, age is just a number, you know. So I think there should be a bit more funding directed, to be honest, to help more people who are adults to still access support, because that's what I realised. You know, you get to a certain age and all the support drops off. you know, and this stuff's expensive, you know, Macs and DJ equipment and all this kind of stuff is really expensive. And if you're not from a certain background, if you've not got money, if you're from somewhere deprived, and you're not going to have access to this stuff. So it was really important for me to find a way. That's literally what I kind of set up to do, was to kind of tackle the adult education, I suppose, and give people a chance. And that's why I started doing, especially around performances as well. I found a lot of over 25s, especially, you know, like are so technically skilled, but they don't know what to do, as in, how do I package myself? How do I get performances? Where can I perform? Who can teach me to be better? You know, so for us, we'll put events on for them, and that's, yeah, it's really important.
That's really good to hear that the access is there. There's Dave Ward, you've got your hand up. Do you want to say something there?
Yes, just that there's a wonderful organisation that we work with called Making Music, who are the association for all the orchestras, choirs, all sorts of ensembles. And there are many people of all ages in that who would love to get involved in composing. They'd love to be making music with technology. And there's a wonderful opportunity here for young people to work with them and show them how to do that.
Back to you, Kate.
Sorry, I was just looking, there was a really fantastic question came in about how can, sorry, just let me find it again. Having answered it, it's now not there. So it was about what hubs might need to do to sort of support this kind of work. What do you think music education hubs need to do to help this agenda move forward, particularly in a rural area where there's not quite the same established scene? And I just think that's such a good question, because a little context, I think in Leicester, you know, and it isn't just Leicester, there's Nottingham, there's Northampton and MPAT. There are lots of places trying to do the same thing, where hubs are reaching out to organisations and collaborating, so that the partnerships are there. So if you get in touch with your hub, they can say, well, okay, you're interested in rap and grime. We know Pedestrian can do some of that, or we know HQ can do some of the recording, production training, whatever it is you need. So having those connections, but how a hub in a rural area can actually move that inclusion and widening engagement agenda forward it's a big question, but a really interesting one. I'm not sure I've got an immediate answer, but I'm sure that Leicester Music Hub would have some answers to that, because there's been a lot of work gone into supporting this network, you know, and developing those networks. So I think that'd be something be great to talk about in more depth.
Kate, can I just add to that really quickly? Yeah, so I think I'm in a really lucky and blessed position to be an employee of the Leicestershire Schools Music Service, who are obviously a big part of the hub in Leicester. And I think my role is such a good position, because half the time I'm working with my LSMS hat on, but then the other half of my life, which I think is so important and which adds value to the role, I'm working in the community. So whereas with the Leicestershire Schools Music Service, we're doing a lot of, county offers, we're creating units of work, which are now inspired by a lot of urban contemporary music, which is great. So we're feeding in our own units of work in turntablism. Bradley's here. He's crazy on the turntablism unit. It's spreading like wildfire. We've got a beatbox unit in production. And that's kind of the music and the genres that we're trying to introduce in a rural and county setting. But more than that, my role now allows me to be a direct bridge between the music service and the community work that I'm doing, which is deep happening already. And I can act as a vine, which is, Shay, do you know anyone who's doing a rap project? I go, yeah, I know Pedestrian's doing a rap project. Let me, because I'm in the service, let me just literally write an email or go talk to Hema or Kate about the work that we're doing in Pedestrian and bridge that gap. So I think having those people in your service, like employing those people, getting them on, contracting them directly into your service, is such a valuable tool to have, I think, for a service.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shay. That's a really good advice there. Okay, have we got any more questions from the audience? A lot of interaction on the chats here.
There's a question there about funding. So who funds the projects? Do students pay towards the projects? The whole sort of funding issue, where's the money come from? That's a bit of a tricky one, but Naji, do you want to have a go on that? Can't mute.
Yeah, I think Kate's probably the best person to answer that question where funding is concerned, because she's quite heavily involved in gathering funding for a lot of projects that I've delivered on myself. So I think, Kate, you should answer that question.
Okay. Yeah, so funding wise, for younger people up to 25, a really significant funder is the National Foundation for Youth Music. And I expect all of us here have actually been involved in youth music funded projects. They're really, really great, very flexible, responsive funders. They like to build in young people's voice right from the beginning. So working with young people to find out what they want, working directly with the organisations to help provide those opportunities. So yeah, youth music, fantastic funders. And then obviously the Arts Council, who have funded connectivity, but the Arts Council, a different type of funding stream, and can be more individualised, can be more tailored to artistic outcomes, quite flexible in what you can apply for, and not limited to under 25, of course. So if you are working and you're above 25, that's a funding stream that you can look at. And there's all sorts of funders out there for community music with different agendas, obviously, different criteria. So for instance, Paul Hamblin, Esme Fairbairn, and then lots of smaller trusts and foundations that you can look for. I hope that answers that.
I'll come in briefly, Kate. But part of our job in TiME is to raise the awareness of all the potential for music technology and music. A lot of people in Parliament and in local authorities don't really understand the potential, and that's what we're at, helping them to understand it, so they'll be more open perhaps to funding.
Yeah.
One of the things. So one of the things just to point out there is there is a document on the TiME website, a paper on the TiME website that does give some information about all these things that we've been talking about. I can't remember exactly what it's called, Kate. Can you? Is it TiME Careers in?
TiME Careers document. I can't remember, Richard.
Sorry. So there's loads of information there within the TiME website. Sorry, Yasin, you were just saying?
I was just going to say, yeah, another fund, like the majority of the funding that I've received over the years has come from the National Lottery Community Fund. And I know that's more, I suppose, for deprivation and, like kind of rather than the high end stuff that might be, for like Arts Council and stuff. But I think that's a really good funder for, like grassroots startup projects. And it's even one that we've actually been able to help young people kind of set up their own groups and access like awards for all pots and set up their own music projects. So I think the National Lottery is always definitely worth a mention, because it's one of the easier ones to get, to be honest, as well, for people starting out in funding. And I think, for me, I think they're the only one that really funded especially the adult, the adult stuff, like I was saying, like over 25s, that's not just about high end, so I just wanted to give them a mention, because I've seen someone message them what was the funding pot. Awards for All is the first, that's kind of like the first one on the rung. So like we went for Awards for All, and then we did one of them successfully in a couple, and then we did one called Reaching Communities, which then was a 3-year project, which was much bigger. And that kind of helped us to get our equipment and the stuff that we need to be able to give the people what they need, you know, the technology and the bits of equipment. A lot of the time that's come from the National Lottery. So I just wanted to add that one to the list, basically. You're muted.
Sorry. So where do I go to find that information? Do I go to the National Lottery site, or where do I find the links to those funding pots?
Yeah, they're all online. Like if you just type in, again, there's so much advice again through time. There's a lot of places where they collate all of these different places, but that one specifically, if you literally type in the National Lottery Community Fund, it's all online and you can apply online, and it's quite a quick process that can help you through it. And I think it's literally about 1,000 words, you know, so it's not necessarily like the Arts Council, I find, is a really hard form to complete, you know, and if you're not necessarily that academic, you know, like I'll be honest, I struggle to fill in an Arts Council form, and I've been doing this for like 10, 11 years, you know, so I kind of feel like that is a potential barrier as well, to be honest, you know, and I think going forward, we need more things like video submissions and, you know, things that will combat if people are dyslexic, or if people, you know, like if they're not that academically inclined. So I think to get more funding into community grassroots, you know, it's important to make it a bit more understandable and have somebody to walk you through the process a little bit. So they're good at that.
Yeah, that's great. I think we need more Kates. I think if there was a Kate in every town, we'd be doing quite well. We've been talking about funding coming into organisations. Can we just think about the money which someone looking for a job within an organisation could be gaining? What sort of money is possible for someone looking for work within community? Anyone fancy taking that one up? Shay.
Hey, it's the money question. Oh, I get the money question. So is that literally how much money? Is that literally how much can I earn if I go down this route, basically?
Yeah, I mean, is it a viable option?
Okay, let me answer that.
Yeah, my mum and dad wanted me to become a doctor. That was never going to happen.
Okay, that's me then. So my mum and dad wanted me to become a doctor. No, honestly, like genuinely. No, I was actually on my way to becoming a doctor, and obviously the dollar signs, the pound signs are there, and I'm like, yeah, that's a great career. I have a change in heart in my career. I say I want to become a musician or a community person in the arts in general, and it just so happened it became music. I would say I was very afraid first, because I had that thought of how am I going to earn a living, how am I going to get by, and even the thought of what am I going to do all day, like that was a thought. What does a community music person do if I'm not delivering? What else am I doing? So through my experience, I learned very quickly that providing a service on my own was quite tough at the start, because it was just me. Luckily, I had support from people like Curve Theatre and the Mighty Creative. So finding help on business support and funding was very important, because they told me how I could then make that money and become, you know, more stable. So doing it on my own was tough. I then got support. These organizations, because I had started to build my networks, then meant that I could do more work. The money started to come in. I could then buy more equipment. That went up and up. And then I started to kind of stand up on my own, but it was still quite difficult. So what I had to do next is go to places like Pedestrian and then connect myself with organizations. So I'm in a very lucky position that I am the underground creatives on my own. That's me. But I am attached to, I do work with Pedestrian. I used to do work with Soft Touch. I do work with Too Funky Arts in Leicester. I do work with various organizations, and piecing those little parts of the puzzle becomes a full-time job where I can comfortably move forward, because I know that I'm connected. And obviously this is what we're all here to do today, is to connect. And that connection has been really, really important for that portfolio job as well. Now with that information, I was able to carry on forward, but then working with the music service, Leicestershire Schools Music Service, who then said, here's a part-time job because of your experience. Now we have a part-time job, we have a freelance, we have a full package where I am now comfortable to to pick myself up as a community musician. Figures wise, you can earn as much as you want, basically, as much as you want or as little as you want. It's all dependent on how you're making those connections and how much work you're getting for yourself. And of course, it's when you deliver a workshop, a project, which has been of value to young people, that speaks volumes. People will see that, people will hear that, and then the projects can build on and on and on from reputation. So
that's brilliant. And I guess you can always have the artist name of Dr. Shay, I suppose.
I've had that one a lot, yeah.
But that's, I mean, for mentors coming through and seeing that portfolio career, which we keep banging on about, but I mean, musicians, I mean, you talk to people, do you enjoy your job? I love my job. You know, I'm playing music, I'm a trumpet player, so I get to play and I get to talk music and everything else. So having that sort of portfolio thing, we're very lucky people. I think everyone on this panel, I'm sure we all love our jobs.
Can I just add to what Shay was saying in terms of be prepared if you're going to follow this road. Be prepared for you to be in a position where you've got loads of little jobs rather than one big job, and that's kind of part of the, well, for me, as far as I'm concerned, the benefit of this kind of job, because you're not doing the same thing every day, all day, and it's exciting. You know, you enjoy seeing a young person start a workshop. At first, it'll be like, man, to the end where they're like, yo, we've got to go, man, turn it off. Yeah, 1 minute. and watching that process is great, you know, and so those kind of things, you know, are part of the reason why you do it before the money, you know, if that makes sense.
Every time.
But be prepared to have a few little jobs, you know, and I'll be 100% real as well. Sometimes, especially on the tutor end of the scale, you may only be having a particular contract for a short amount of time, you know, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months or so. But like Shay was saying, you know, I mean, if you put the work in, you eventually your experience will speak for itself, and you get yourself into positions where, like Shay, you know, I've worked with virtually all of the arts organizations and service providers in the city over the years, and I've sustained, you know, a career of best part of 30 years doing this. So I'm soon to be retired.
No chance. No
all these
chance
beats, I've bought my land in Antigua.
People like you,
and go chill out on the beach. You know them.
People like you can't retire.
and music, community music has paid for that. You know, so
yeah,
man, it's real. It's real. But like
I'd be interested to hear from Tian. How do you feel about sort of that portfolio career thing? Are you putting your fingers in many pies at the moment, wearing lots of hats and that type of thing?
Yeah, so currently on both sides of like the board, I guess. So on the tutoring and mentoring side, obviously I work with pedestrian, and I do bits and bobs around different places in Leicester, and I do the thing where I go into schools with the KNA Foundation. And then on the artist side, obviously I'm making music, trying to work on my next EP that I'm going to release, and then I'm also helping my friends start their YouTube channel, which is based on skits. I have a radio show on Radio 2 Funky, and I'm starting to hopefully have a podcast that should be fully up and running by the end of March.
That's great. And are you finding you're getting enough sort of money coming in to pay for stuff?
Yeah, that was kind of the reason I stepped over to the mentoring side, because I realized that unless I'm going to record a video that's going to get loads of views, I'm not getting paid to be a rapper. And then just at the time, weirdly enough, as I started doing the mentoring stuff, I also started getting booked for paid shows and stuff. So now they kind of just, like Shay said, it's like different things that are paying you. Like if someone asks me what I do for a job, I kind of sit there and think about it, because I'm like, now, do I say I'm a rapper? Do I say I'm a teacher? Yeah, so we kind of just, yeah, it's good.
That's good. Estar, have you had the same sort of journey on that?
Well, for me, it's different. Like, I'm not a music mentor. I would just say I'm an artist, but I do have a job, like, alongside. But I'm not signed and I'm completely independent. So it's not that I do put money sometimes into, like, music, but I'm completely DIY. So like all the visuals we make is just like we do everything. And like it's kind of like I don't really see it as a job. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's more like because I enjoy what I do, it's worth it. So all that time and effort I put into it, it's like, okay, yeah, I want to release my things so people can see, but it's also because like I'm proud of the stuff I do. And like when I'm at a position to be able to afford to, you know, pay for visuals, I can. But right now, like the visuals we're creating ourselves is pretty good.
It's great to hear you're enjoying what you're doing there as a musician. You know, it's such a great vocation. Really, you know, it's excellent. Kate, I think back to you. We're at 6 o'clock there.
Yes, I think we do. Yeah, there's so much to talk about. And as David said earlier, we will be doing this again because there is an awful lot to talk about and to learn from each other and to support young people, older people, organisations in their careers and in their enjoyment of music. So we definitely will be back. And just want to say thank you to everybody, and obviously thank you to our attendees. In a moment, I'm going to let David say goodbye to everybody and close the conference, but I'll pop the link to our survey in the chat. And thank you to everybody who was in the first panel also. So yeah, thank you all, and I'll see you all very soon.
And I'm echoing those thanks to all the people in the first panel and to this panel as well. Such a richness, you know, such a great wealth of experience and knowledge, and that is so wonderful, and we'll look forward to doing much more with all of you. Thank you very much, and to all the attendees, thank you. Please do complete our little questionnaire. That will help us know what to do in the future. But for now, say bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Shay, can you send me that video before we leave?
Wow.
And thank you. Bye to Ollie as well.
The
Bye.